Welcome to 15 And, where we grow through the transformative stories and principles from the Bible. I hope you enjoy this teaching. I hope you share it with others. And I hope you go to 15and.org, click the Donate Now button, and support this mission.
Harvard did a study, and they followed a group of people. It's called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. It's run for 87 years, two populations. 268 sophomores, class from 1939 to 1944, and then 456 boys from the poorest neighborhood in Boston. And so they fill out these questionnaires every 2 years. Physician reports, brain scans, blood draws, personal interviews. Most of them have passed now. 19 of the original Harvard cohort are still alive, all in their mid-90s. And the headline finding is this: good relationships predict happiness. I mean, the way that I think about it is, if your circumstances are bad but your relationships are good, you feel like life is good. If your circumstances are good but your relationships are bad, you feel like life is bad. One of the really crazy things to me is the IQ made almost no difference. Men with IQs between 110 and 115 earn the same as men with IQs above 150. And it's just this reality that loneliness is such a powerful driving force in our lives. And the reason I key in on this is because it is lonely in leadership. I mean, you've got a vision for something that people don't yet see. You're seeing what yet is not made real. You are asking people to join you in this vision and this invitation to come into what could be. And that isn't easy. And you lead towards that and you build towards that. And you're inviting people into that before the data is there. I mean, once the data is there, it's not leadership. And what I've seen so often in this loneliness, and that's just real, and it just feels that way sometimes, is that a leader gets in their head, the headspace gets really negative in regards to this loneliness, and they start to hurt the thing that's going to make them so aided, so supported. And that's their relationships. I know this is happening at the leadership level with companies we work with all the time, but I also see it in the culture like crazy. Our culture is obsessed with power. And the way that I know that we're obsessed with power, I think people think it's about money. It's more often about power. The way that I know that we're obsessed with power is I watched what happened over the last decade or so when we really tried to out-victim each other. I'm a greater victim. No, I'm a greater victim. No, I'm a greater victim. And what's happening in that moment is we're trying to manipulate, we're using vulnerability as a bid for sympathy. And so if you really start to untie the Gordian knot, as they say, you can look at so much performative posting in social media. You can look at corporate PR releases. You can look at CEOs talking about what they're facing and what they're going through. And so often, wherever people find themselves, they're using the vulnerability as a bid for sympathy. And what I think is really powerful about what we're diving in today, this series called Heaven Now, is a complete deconstruction of that. And we're going to get a true vision of what it looks like. Now, the whole thesis of this series is too often Christians are waiting for the culture wars to be won. And that's not how transformation works. We transform from the bottom up, micro communities, when we live changed. And the fruit of how we lived changed is the fruit of the Spirit. That in the moments we most don't want to be loving, joyful, peaceful, patient, or kind, or on and on, we've been talking through these fruits, that's the moments we need to live that the most. And we're looking at that because it's the high water mark to me in the New Testament to show us what God is like and what we can be like. And we're looking at comparing it to the Beatitudes because this is Jesus' teaching. This is what he's saying it looks like when we live transformed. So let's not wait on heaven. There's a later, greater reality, but let's see heaven now as we live transformed. Now, to really help you understand the fruits of the Spirit, we're talking about it in terms of identity fears. This is what we do at SiteShift. And the identity fear here is fear of vulnerability. There's a fear of vulnerability. And if I really wanted to help you understand this fruit of the Spirit and this fear very well, I'm going to take you to a character, David, King David. So I'm going to be looking at 2 Samuel 13. We'll start there. Now, David's king. His house, though, is more like a soap opera. Amnon, which is David's firstborn, we know that's huge, especially at this time. All families played favorites, and the favorite is the firstborn. Amnon, David's firstborn, who would have been the heir, culturally speaking, rapes his half-sister, Tamar. It's a dark, terrible, evil story. So, one of David's sons, Absalom, which is Tamar's full brother, does what a good brother would do. Takes her into his house. Awesome. Now, 2 Samuel 13:15, I'll just read it to you this way. The text says, Amnon hated Tamar, with an intense hatred greater than the love with which he had loved her. There's so much of a terrible, awful, insidious evil in King David's house. It's all about manipulation. It's all about power. So Amnon wants Tamar. Once he possesses her in an evil way and rapes her, he's disgusted by her. I mean, the psychology of this is profound. This is why so often people that deal in the machinations of power in a way that they're rotting from the inside, they get the things that they manipulate to get through evil and destructive means, and then they hate the very things, whether it's objects or people. So Tamar is in this place that she's completely devastated. I mean, it's not like they just lived different back then. This is a human being that's been violated. She tears the long sleeve robe that marked her as a virgin, daughter of the king. She walks the city with ashes on her head, weeping aloud. Then, 2 Samuel 13:21. Here's King David's response. When King David heard all these things, he was very angry. I mean, this is his daughter. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you wouldn't be anything but violently angry. I'm sorry, but if this is one of my daughters, I'm in jail. I start a GoFundMe. I'm in jail. It doesn't matter. I like to think of myself as someone who's done a lot of work, who's evolving, but I don't know that Dark Chris doesn't show up and win the day that moment. I get chills just talking about it. It's hard to even talk about. It's hard to imagine. Now, some Hebrew manuscripts in the Greek Septuagint add a second line to this verse. And here's how it reads. And the NRSV includes it in the main text. The NIV footnotes it. So different translations do different things with this. Here's what it's added. But he would not punish his son Amnon because he loved him since he was his firstborn. Now, even if you take that phrase out and it's not included, all we have in the major manuscripts is when King David heard all these things, he was very angry. And the implied reference is that some translations directly spell out, but he did nothing. He closes off. He doesn't take any action. Now, I want you to understand David's silence carefully. He's the king. He has the authority to discipline. I believe it this way. He has the obligation to restore his daughter Tamar and show what his reign is like. He's building a culture. He's building a kingdom, but he does nothing. No conversation with Amnon, no restoration of Tamar, no public address of what happened in the royal house. I mean, this is the man who wrote Psalm 51, created me a clean heart, O God. And he couldn't have a 5-minute conversation with his son. I think I can get why he did it. I'm not at all excusing his behavior, but it's not hard for me to get there in terms of explaining it. Because think about his own struggle with power. What he did with Bathsheba. He would have been the aggressor. Bathsheba, come over. Whether she willingly went along with it or not, we don't really know. Either way, it was a manipulation of power. his own struggle with power. He took advantage of a situation. He gets the woman's husband killed, Uriah. I believe in this moment, his own unquieted demons. This isn't something I can take action on because look at my failure. Look at my struggle. I can't do anything about this. And so he's got a succession crisis. He can restore Tamar. He can discipline Amnon. He can indict the king's house publicly and handle this. But his paralysis is most acute at the points it mattered the most. Now, I don't know how you make sense of any of the major characters in the Old Testament, but for me, what I look at over and over and over again is they're flawed, they're human, they're broken like us. And what I see in David's story, this fear of vulnerability, I see a breakdown that I see in everyone that has this fear. We talk about it in terms of proving or hiding. When this fear is showing up, this fear of vulnerability, and you can't access the fruit of the Spirit you most need in that moment. And we'll unpack that in a minute. Out of that insecurity, you prove, you show up too big, or you hide, you show up too small. So let's talk about the proving dimension of this. The proving dimension of this is so easy to spot. So easy to spot. I was with a team last week, and someone in the room had fear of vulnerability as a second fear. We measure all this in our IFQ. And his stature was massive, an imposing presence, tall, bigger dude, loud voice. Now, what a lot of people would say is that's just his personality. What I would say is personality, how we define it usually, is a defense mechanism formed pre-verbally. Somewhere along the way, this guy learned, if I'm not loud and imposing, I'm going to be hurt. And so I see this wiring showing up in a proving energy. And I think you can see some of that in David's story. It's a proving that I'm going to sniff out your boundaries and invade them. If you've ever worked for one of these leaders, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They can draw out your own vulnerabilities. They can draw out your own boundaries, and then they blaze right past them. You're not going to impose on me. You're not going to put a boundary on me. It's the CEO who expects full and immediate access to their team at all times, no matter what, never respecting their rhythms and lives. It's the VP who believes they are in a place that they have to constantly pay attention to the power dynamics over and above anything else. So they're getting into the meeting room early to pick the right seat so they're sitting in the right spot so that the power dynamics that is instinctual for them are playing out in the way that they want it to. It's the leader who knows how to show enough vulnerability to draw someone into a moment and then use that as a weapon. A lot of the executives I've worked with at larger companies or in larger nonprofits or churches, they'll have this identity fear, and they've learned how to soften the edges of it so it just shows up in a smooth way. But at their core, when they're most stressed or insecure, they're worried about power dynamics. That's the proving energy of this. The hiding energy, it's the opposite. They don't build boundaries very well. They shut off in key moments. Moments where they could deepen relationships with their leadership team. They don't show the human side of who they are. They have to have the polish, the perfection, everything buttoned up, so everyone looks at them and there's a sense of respect. It's why it's so powerful when people really start to understand how this identity fear can drive you, when they just start to share their wins and inspire people. And they relax their team with their struggles. They share their learnings. They share their vulnerabilities, not in a manipulative way, but in an honest way. It's beautiful when this happens. It's the most fun thing to me to see that in some leaders' data and to know if they just tell stories that make them approachable, It's something that draws people in. There was an executive at a Fortune 75 company we were working with, a president, and he had this in his data. And he had shared with me something he liked doing on the weekends. I don't want to share too many of the details as this is recorded and whatever. I noticed a hobby that he liked doing on the weekends. So I asked him about it. I was like, you know what? I want you to tell your team about it. Why? That doesn't help us. Billions of dollars on the line. Why am I going to do that? Because you will find that people can relate to you. You're a human, not having to project all of this intense armor. And that lowering of the armor is going to make you more easily able to be followed. And it worked. It worked so powerfully, people were bringing it up years later. He came back and said, I want to do more together. Came back again recently because he learned, I don't have to have all of this false self-protection. Because when I have that in place and I'm hiding, people can't relate to me and they don't follow. Now, I see in David's story, he's running both at different moments. There's times he's silent, he's frozen, he's withdrawn, he's hiding from these key issues. There are other times when his leadership is on the line and he's decisive in public and he's performing the agency of power as the king. I think a lot of leaders, whether or not they know it, they're running both. Now, the data shows us that most leaders with this identity fear tend to hide, put them in 10 insecure, stressed out moments where they feel their identity is on the line. They may not even know they're stressed. They're just moving so fast. A majority of those, they're going to choose to hide. Some they're going to choose to prove. I would say this to you. Most teams and cultures I can figure out really quick just from a few moments of proving and a lot of hiding that shapes that culture. And very often it is this identity fear because it deals in power. 2 Samuel 13, I want to go a little further. I'm going to look at verse 23. This story's unfolding. It happened after 2 full years, I'm in verse 23, that Absalom is the son of his that took Tamar in. That was his full sister. She had been raped. That Absalom had sheep shearers in Baal-Hazar, which is beside Ephraim. So this is context here. This is 2 full years of silence in David's house. 2 years of ignoring. 2 years of hiding. 2 full years of Absalom watching his father do nothing. 2 full years of Tamar living in Absalom's house. Verse 20 says, a desolate woman. What happens in those 2 years? Here is the danger to this identity fear. When you are not expressing power in healthy ways, when you're proving and manipulating, when you're hiding and you can't deal with the real issues and you can't be worthy of a following, hidden agendas grow. Hidden agendas grow. When you show up with this proving energy and you power up, little coups form because people feel life suffocated out of them and they rebel against that. David knows this. It's exactly what happened with Saul. He's hiding out in the cave with 300 men who are in debt, who are discontented and distressed. I mean, it's the worst of the worst. And he actually has the patience to endure in that phase and not use power in an evil way to see this kingdom come to him. But he forgets that lesson. And as he forgets that lesson, he's in this place that this hidden agenda is growing. Hidden agendas not only grow when you squash the life out because you power up, hidden agendas grow because you hide and you don't deal with the critical issues. So what does Absalom do? At this sheep shearing, it's a festival celebration. There's wine, there's mutton, lamb, family. Absalom orchestrates Amnon's murder at his own party. Do you think Absalom comes to his dad and goes, hey, I'm going to take Amnon out? I want to be honest with you. This has to be reconciled. You've let this go on so long. This kingdom is rotting from within. I'm taking action on this. No, he didn't disclose that to David. It was a hidden agenda that developed. So Absalom orchestrates this murder. Then he flees to his maternal grandfather's land, and he stays there 3 years. What does David do in those 3 years? We're going to jump to verse 39 of 2 Samuel 13. King David longed to go out to Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, since he was dead. What? What a complicated, messy story. He longed, but he never conversed. He didn't send for Absalom. He mourned, but he wouldn't act. Now, one of David's commanders, Joab, he notices this, that David isn't acting. Amnon has been killed. He longs to be with Absalom. The king can't take action. So what does Joab do? Joab engineers this workaround. Another hidden agenda. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me how bad this situation gets because David is a closed book. The way that we talk about these identity fears is a validation identity. We want validation. And we all do. We can't help it. We all do. I want validation in my most insecure, challenging moments. But where do you get that validation? That's the key. What is David trying to get? David's trying to get the validation of his power, thinking, if I take action, I'm going to be in a bad spot, so I'm going to close off. Whether it's a proving energy or a hiding energy, this identity fear armors up and shuts down, and they power up through stature and presence and a bellowing voice and a costing energy and evading boundaries, or through hiding, through shutting down, through not addressing, letting these hidden agendas develop. 2 Samuel 14, so what does Joab do? Joab sends a wise woman with a parable to David about a widow and 2 sons. Now this is powerful. As David does seek God deeply and thoughtfully at different parts, when he is deep in his dysfunction, when he is deep in his brokenness, when he is deep in his sin, it's a story that wakes him up. That's what happens with Nathan coming to David about Bathsheba. Same thing that's happening here. And so what does David do? When he has this story and he's confronted, he thinks he's just being emotionally moved by this story. He rules in this lady's favor with this story, restore the exiled son, then realizes Joab set this up. This is just something to draw me out, just like Nathan did. David can see truth when it shows up like this, but he doesn't apply it to his own house without a setup. So David makes a decree, 2 Samuel 14:24. He's restoring now. He's starting to take a step that's healthy. He says, let him return to his own house, talking about Absalom, but let him not see my face. So what does Absalom do? Absalom returns to his own house and didn't see the king's face. Bring him back. Great positive step, but don't let him see me. Not yet full restoration. Partial. 2 more full years pass in Jerusalem with father and son in the same city. No contact. What occurs? Well, after 2 years, Absalom's had enough. He torches his cousin's barley field to get a meeting with Joab. Joab finally goes to David. David agrees to see his son. Now, you could replace torching a barley field with sent the memo, had the hallway conversation, went straight to the board. All the things that happen in companies and teams today that are the equivalent of burning the barley field. Verse 33. So Joab came to the king and told him. And when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king. And the king kissed Absalom. Oh, this is great. They're restored. No, this is a ceremonial thing. This is for show. This isn't real restoration. The text never says, David says to his son, tell me what happened. He never says to his son, I'm sorry, here's what I missed. He never says, I'm sorry, I owe you and Tamar an apology for the way I haven't handled this. There's never a direct ownership of the moment because he's afraid to be vulnerable. He's afraid to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless in the moment. And there's never a, what do you need from me now? What would you like me to do? One kiss, no conversation, end of scene. It's theater. We could call it reconciliation theater. Guys, I have seen this so many times in churches, in businesses. The person that is a key person on the team, and everybody goes to the monthly staff meeting, and we all like Bill, and we count on Bill, and Bill's a champion of the vision. And the next staff meeting, Bill isn't there, and nothing's ever said. People just look around, and everybody learns a quiet lesson. Hidden agendas. Something ain't right here. Something is fishy. Bill's the man, and now Bill's gone. What's going on? We just sweep it under the carpet. I've seen it the other extreme too. We bring Bill up in front of the staff meeting. And Bill's leaving because it's a toxic environment. Or Bill isn't a yes man and he's pushing back on the boss, and the boss has forced Bill out. Either way, the other extreme, in the monthly staff meeting, we bring Bill up there and we go, Bill has decided to embrace the next chapter of his life. And so he's moving to do this next thing, and we're so proud of him, and we celebrate him, and let's eat some cake, and let's talk about Bill for a minute, and let's send him out. But it's not a real launching. Real launchings happen. They're powerful and effective. You're never, ever, ever wanting to be possessive of people as a leader. You're always developing them and launching them out. That's a healthy view. That's not what's happening in this moment. This moment, everybody knows. Bill wasn't a yes man. Bill's forced out. Or Bill was reading the writing on the wall, seeing the degradation of this culture. This is a toxic place. Bill's getting out. And we just did this performative thing, this fake vulnerability, because the main leader can't be authentically vulnerable. I'm moved by this story so powerfully because it is so clear to me how David is accessing power in a dysfunctional way, proving and hiding. What's the antidote? What's the fruit of the Spirit here that answers this identity fear? It's gentleness. Gentleness. Now, I think when people hear the word gentle, they think gentle. Oh, not mean, just nice. Wallflower. Doormat. No, that's not what this word means. It's literally a bridled and directed power. Kind of the word picture here is the way a horse would be bridled and directed. See, here's the thing I want you to understand. The people with this wiring, and we need to grow in all the fruits of the Spirit. I have this identity fear in me at any given point. It's why I told you in the Serpents and Doves series, Jesus sends us out like sheep among wolves. We're to be harmless as a dove, pure in motive, cunning as a serpent, wise in strategy. I had to learn the harmless as a dove part later in life because I was raised, and I want to honor him in all the appropriate ways, but I was raised by a father who, he's never taken the IFQ, but had this identity fear in spades. And I learned about reading and paying attention and how you use emotions as a bid for sympathy. And you share a little bit of fake vulnerability to have people bought in, to get them to do what you want. And I learned about hiding from key issues. And the fruit of the Spirit that's most missing in those moments is gentleness. Not an absence of power, power used well. People that have this wiring understand it. Once you start to help them see it, the light bulbs start to go off. Oh, the fruit of the Spirit is gentleness. That's what God is like. I mean, you think about this idea that God takes on humanity, fully human, fully divine, as Jesus the Christ, in a trough that animals drink out of. What an embracing of vulnerability. To struggle is every way we struggle. What an embracing of vulnerability. To have so much power that you could throw yourself off the temple and the angels would catch you and you could skip the cross. Gentleness. Gentleness. The Beatitude here that's so beautiful is, blessed are the meek, happy are the meek, whole are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. When Jesus taught that, he's quoting out of Psalms. There's a reference to it. He's saying this: for the people that understand how real power works and use their power well, power under direction, these are the people who will get it all. Falsely, they will inherit the earth through the kingdom. Falsely, they try to inherit the earth through overdoing or underdoing power, and hidden agendas develop. And there's no earth to inherit because they can't rule well. Jesus says, blessed are the meek. Same word here, related, not exact same word, but related to the word for the fruit of the Spirit of gentleness. Blessed are the gentle. Blessed are the people who know how to move in power, but do it from a healthy and whole place. If I have somebody on a team who has this identity fear, I have somebody who understands power dynamics. And I want them at the table. I want them shaping strategy. I want them thinking about relationships. But I can't let them run the table when they're insecure. Because what are they going to do? They're going to use power to manipulate, or they're going to underdo it and hide from key things. And what will grow in that is a hidden agenda. Our culture is so confused about this. I mean, everyone is trying to weaponize everything. It's a constant weaponizing of victimhood, of arguments, all of this insanity. For those of us in the kingdom, we can say this: bring those weapons, because I don't fear them. Because there's one weapon that's more powerful than anything in the whole world. And it's the only power that can't be conquered. Gentleness, meekness, humility. I know what I possess within. And so the machinations of power around me don't make me afraid, because I go to God and receive gentleness. I can't give you what I don't have. And God is a gentle God. Isn't that awesome? The fruits of the Spirit are who God is. God is power under direction. God is power focused. God is power used for the end, which is good, and the means to get there are gentle. And this is what David could not give Absalom. He wasn't living this. He wasn't receiving this. And so he couldn't give it out in the moments that it mattered the most. And this is the key plot point of the story. Absalom, in this hidden agenda, forms a coup under David's leadership. Leaders who lead out of the fear of vulnerability and don't access the fruit of the Spirit of gentleness and prove and overdo power or hide and underdo it, allow coups to form underneath their leadership. It's why when we coach a leader or work with a leader with his identity fear, they got constant personnel problems. 2 Samuel 15, 1-6. And so it was that when any man came near to bow down to him, he put forth his hand and took hold of them and kissed him. Who's it talking about here? David, this great leader who hears people's troubles and encourages them and authenticates their struggle? No, it's talking about Absalom. Verse 5-6 here. So Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. Not judgment like you're in trouble, judgment like discerning. So people come to the king with a cause. Real causes, real issues. Systems break, kingdoms struggle, leadership is hard, it's lonely at the top, big complex problems show up. And the people are going to the king for leadership on that. But the king isn't showing up. So Absalom at the city gate, did the king listen to you? Did he solve your issue? Did he take care of you? Did he authenticate your struggle? No. So what's Absalom doing? Like what a politician does, being with the people, hearing the struggles. But Absalom is doing something here. And he's not doing it just to help people. Verse 6, so Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. He learned from his dad. Performative theater. I'm going to give you what looks like vulnerability. We're going to form a connection, but I'm going to manipulate you because I'm working to an end. And maybe Absalom thought he was doing the best thing for the kingdom because dad is asleep at the wheel. And we see in companies we work with succession, sometimes the son or daughter or whatever is super insecure and they just want their own kingdom. Sometimes falsely, they're like Judas. I know a better way. I will betray because I'm going to protect this kingdom. Either way, Absalom proclaims himself king at Hebron, marches on Jerusalem. David flees the city. He's barefoot. His head's covered. He's weeping. He's going up the Mount of Olives. The king who could have had a conversation with his son is now back in the wilderness like he was before because of his son. And Absalom, this is why I don't think he was really trying to do it for good reasons, sleeps with David's concubines on the rooftop in the sight of all Israel. Hey, Dad, what's yours? It's now mine. Let me show you. And of course, it's a dark time. This is crazy that relationships work this way at this time. And that women were treated as property and objects. And thankfully, we've evolved. We have nothing like the Epstein files to let us know that the world is still broken. 2 Samuel 18:33 says this, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom," this is David, "would I had died for you. Absalom, my son, my son." Why is David weeping here? Why is he so sad? Because Joab kills Absalom. There's a play on the moment here. Absalom's hair was this signature of his strength and his glory. You think David's good, Absalom's even better. He gets his hair caught in a tree. It's a crazy story. It's a dark comedy ending. And Joab kills him. Joab, who had a hidden agenda before. Because David isn't acting, I've got to take action on his behalf. When I hear a leader say, "I'm worried we're all on the same page," well, are you giving them a clear page to operate from? Because very often the fear of vulnerability develops these hidden agendas. People aren't on the same page because they're a closed book. And they overdo power or they underdo it. And most often they hide from the key conversations and the key struggles. A closed book creates hidden agendas. When I look at the story of David, when I look at this identity fear, I take away 3 applications that help me a ton. Number 1, if you do not name where you are avoiding vulnerability, you will culture hidden agendas. You will culture an Absalom. If you do not name where you are avoiding vulnerability, you will culture hidden agendas. There's a hiding question to ask. Am I avoiding vulnerability to the point that I'm sabotaging relationships? There's a proving question. Is my powering up in relationships really a way to avoid feeling vulnerable? Both of those are a key unlock. Second point of application. You can't give gentleness you have not received. You can't give gentleness you have not received. You can't give power under direction unless you start to really understand that's who God is. God does not use power to invade your boundaries. And a lot of people teach God theologically like that's what God would do, but that is not God. God doesn't avoid the key issues either. And if you'll be open, he'll lead you to them in a gentle way. It's exactly what Jesus did with the woman at the well. She's coming at a time when other women wouldn't have come to get water because she feels shame. She's humiliated. She's embarrassed. Now, we don't know yet why she's embarrassed. We just know that she's coming at a time other women didn't come to the well. And Jesus does not avoid the issue. He doesn't invade her boundaries. It's not violent. It's invitational. You're right. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you're with now isn't your husband. What's he saying to her? Look, I know you've been rejected because men had the power. You've been divorced that many times. Rejected, 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 rejected. And now the man you're with doesn't even have the decency to marry you. I know you feel discarded. I know you feel thrown aside. I know you feel raw, exposed vulnerability. I'm not going to let you hide from this moment. I'm going to lead you through it. And she tries to backtrack and make it a religious conversation. We're going to talk theology. And then Jesus is like, no, this is the water you're looking for. You're not going to find it in another relationship. You find it with me. And she was so transformed. She brought other people into a relationship with Christ. You cannot give gentleness you have not received, and God is ready to walk you through all the parts you're vulnerable with in a gentle, invitational way. Three. Open the window. Open the door. You got some stale air in your leadership. Share something that you want to hide from. The things that make you human. Inspire your team with your wins. Relax them with your struggles. Just share the simple facts of who you are and what you enjoy. It makes you worth following. These people that have this struggle are such a gift because they know what power is like and they learn to use it well, not to protect themselves from feeling exposed in their vulnerabilities. They shift and use their power to build others. 2020, y'all, hard season. Leading Site Shift, I've had a few hard seasons the last decade. Businesses go through cycles, up and down. You go through a few years of growth, you're typically going to have a year that you got to build some infrastructure. Things kind of slow down a little bit. Sometimes a crisis occurs and forces that slowing down. I'd been doing Site Shift full-time for 5 or 6 years. 2020 hits. We had a thing going on in the world at that time. We were down 70% for 2 quarters. Now, I had coached a CEO who had come in. He had 8 locations to his business, and he had bet wrong on location 7 and 8. His exact words, and I don't know why. Goes through the coaching, is transformed. Exits at like 44 locations. Powerful story. I freaking love it. Gifted in some ways I'm not regarding finances. I've had to really learn the hard way. The stuff around vision and direction and strategy, I eat that stuff for breakfast. But at the time, I couldn't sit and look at a spreadsheet. I didn't really understand the dynamics of financial modeling very well. And he offered, hey, I'm willing to be helpful any way you want. And if you want, I can help with some of this. And I'm like, that'd be amazing. So we started meeting every month. For a year, we did this, mentoring. And he just helped me really anchor myself and being able to look at financials and discern and understand. It was a key missing ingredient in my leadership. Well, 2020 hits. I'm coming with my numbers every month. He said this exactly. 2 quarters down, 70%. This reads like an autopsy report. Because it did. And right at the end of the month, there was a shot of cash. And he was like, well, this is good. Now, I knew why that shot of cash was there. I closed a business loan to stay alive, to fight the fight another day. It can be a terrible decision to make. You can get in a dark, deep hole with that. It was where I was. And rather than correct it, he would know the next month when we go through the financials and see everything as it got allocated out on the cash flow statement and the P&L that it was a debt. It wasn't a credit. We're just looking at the raw numbers. Hey, good job. Whatever happened here? This thing's turning around. I know the next month, unless I hide from this meeting and don't show up, he's going to know where it came from. I just received it. Thanks. Everything in me is like, oh my gosh, I am proving and I'm hiding at the same time. I don't want to be vulnerable. I know when I come to the next meeting, I got to lead through this. I don't want to talk about it. I want to avoid it. I'm going to cancel the meeting. Thanks. This has been great. You've helped me so much. I'm good from here. Or I just don't show up. Pull a David. I've learned to step into these moments. And I was ready. I was ready to say, look, I want to tell you, I really lied to you last meeting. The way we ended, I could have corrected it and I didn't. And I understand when I confess this to you, if you don't want to work with me anymore, because that makes sense. How could you? I've broken trust. It was a really powerful moment for me. Because as I vulnerably disclosed all this right at the beginning, his reply back was so restorative. Actually, I want to help you even more now. I trust you more. And I'm like, what? I have situations in my life where I have disclosed vulnerably to leaders who have the fear of vulnerability and do not know gentleness, and they use that against me. They weaponize it and they hurt me with it. I've had that happen. I got stories for days. But in this moment, it wasn't weaponized. It was restorative. May we be the kind of leaders who lead with the fruit of spirit of gentleness. Get some air in those stale places, because God's life will breathe a freshness to it as we see the fruit of the spirit of gentleness take root.
I hope you enjoyed this teaching from 15 And. Go to 15and.org, share these resources with others, and click the Donate Now button to participate in funding this mission.